Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Folks, if you don't mind, you can mute your phones. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Um, Once again, thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Please note that all these sessions are recorded and we place the recordings on our YouTube channel. Okay, so if you're not comfortable with that, you may want to drop. With that, let's start with our topic of discussion today. We are going to be talking about uh, Power Platform, and especially Power Apps and Power Automate. So just a quick blurb about myself. And by the way, I will share the slide deck. So what is Power Platform? So Microsoft Power Platform is uh, Microsoft's technology to make uh, to help citizen developers. Okay, the four core services that are part of it, they are Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. The two things that we're going to talk about today are Power Apps and Power Automate. So what is the goal of this thing? Basically, the goal of the Power Platform is to empower developers wherever they are. They can be pro developers who you know who develop day in and day out. They can be developers who are familiar with like PowerShell scripting, like IT developers or shell scripting kind of thing. They can be citizen developers who are more familiar with doing kind of Excel style of work. So all of these basically are kind of uh, the goal is to empower all of these type of developers. And at the same time, and we will see uh, in today's session, like how Power Apps and Power Automate and the entire platform makes this thing possible. So first of all, what are Power Apps? I'm sure, this technology has been out there for some time, but I just want to kind of go over it because um, there are some new features that have been added. There are some new enhancements that have been made, and also um, I got a chance to play with it. Um, Last week, before I, just kind of did little itty bitty things with it. But last week I uh, got a chance to do a little bit deeper, and I found out how quickly you can get up to speed on it and how quickly you can use it to build the applications. Quick applications, enterprise grade applications using data that is available in your enterprise. So first of all, this is a low code approach. What that means is uh, the skill level that you need to write these applications is scripting. So if you know scripting, you can write these applications using Power Apps. Okay, you can write applications for mobile platforms, for basically tablets, for mobile phones, and you can use existing services like SharePoint, like Office 365, like Azure. You can connect to those services. You can bring your existing on-prem data. You can work against that. And also it provides a very interesting concept. I call it kind of a shared database, which is kind of common data services, which has a number of common entity that you may be using with your application. And at the same time, it allows you to create new entities in that common data service, and we will take a look at that as well. So basically, a lot of things are already pre-built for you, and you just have to connect things to make things working. And then, of course, you can do before you can do mobile solutions and like desktop solutions, like for what you call tablets. But now you can build web solutions as well. It has now support for something called Power Apps portals, where you can do that. And Uh, Moving on. So let's say that yes, you created the UI, but then you need to do some workflow behind the scene, some business orchestration behind the scene, how you do it. That's where Power Automate, which you used to be known as Microsoft Flow, is there. It is very similar. If you have used Logic apps in Azure, it's very similar to that kind of similar connectors. So you can build your flow behind the scene and then connect it to your Power Apps directly or connect it to the data set. So you can also connect it to a common data services data set where you, if the, let's say if that is updated, you trigger and you can run it. And also you can set other triggers as well, schedule or on some other services. For example, email arriving in an inbox and things like that. So all of that is fair game. And this is where the, power lies. You have Power Apps sitting on the top. Then you have Azure services like API management, SQL DB, Cosmos DB, all of that. And you can build application not only taking advantage of the business component, but also taking advantage of Azure services. So deliver that power faster. And I can tell you this, I have done, as I said, a little bit of stuff before that with Power Apps where, I found that interesting. And I was really surprised how quickly you can get ramp up. So I just did that workshop Power App in a day, and I just played around with it, and it was kind of very intuitive environment. And I was able to build some applications, very, very quickly, very, very fast, and was able to gain the knowledge of the system very, very fast. So the point is, there is, the way the Power Apps work is very simple and intuitive. So you should be able to take advantage of it to build application for your, help your customer build application for their enterprise or build application for your enterprise. Um, so yeah, as I said, with common data services, that's one of the things that I want to talk about. So this is a common set of data, and we will take a look at it in a second, which has a common set of entities. You can create your own entities, you extend the existing entities, and if you connect to systems like Dynamics 365 and Office 365, they will add their own entities there as well. So this is kind of, think of it your common database. It's, and you can add, so basically you can build on top of it. Think of it as a shared data resource that is there for you. Okay. Finally, with Flow Automate, these are the connectors. So I'm not going to spend too much time on talk. So I'm going to just jump in, and I'm going to kind of in the demo, instead of going over some hello world application, I'm going to build a real world application. So let's see how successful I am in doing that. So first of all, let's go into the environment. So this is the environment, Power Apps. You can get to it, make.powerapps.com. And just keep in mind, you can either do a trial version. If your organization doesn't have it, you can do a 30-day trial. And there is another option called community. So if you do, and by the way, I have a link there in the resources for that. If you go to that, you can get a community version, which is free. Basically, you cannot use it for production. You can use it for learning, so you can create application. And that's the version I'm using over here. Okay. So the application that I'm um, going to build is on a database that I have created for these, as kind of the website. I'm sure if you've seen the website or not, azurepowerlunch.com. This is the website, azurepowerlunch.com. So this is site, the database that's behind that website. I'm trying to build a management interface on top of it where I can add sessions. So if somebody is presenting, I can add that information. It can send email, things like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So on this Power Apps screen, first of all, you have your apps, you have your data. That's where this is common data services. So when you create that test environment, this is my environment or community environment. These are all the entities that it has created. And what I can do is I can add my own entities to it. Okay, so basically this covers a number of entities that your business application may be using. If you don't like those entities, you can create your own. Okay, or extend these existing entities. Then you have connection, data flows. Flows are basically your Azure, sorry, Power Automate thing. So let's start by creating an app. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to create a Canvas app and I'm going to name it. Okay. And I'm going to just create a tablet app. It's going to take a few seconds here. Normally it takes like 10-15 seconds since it's a demo. And we have like 17 minutes. So let's see if I can get something going in that time. And the app would be ability to show. So this is the app. I'm going to just this screen, main screen, and this is going to show all, and I'm going to call it session manager. Basically, it's going to help me manage my Azure Power Lunch session. So let's go in here and call it session manager. And let's change the font size to 32. Make it bold. And let me just go in here, make it and the background to blue. And let's go in here and center it. Okay, so with that, now the real fun starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a vertical gallery. So this is a control. This is a data control that you can use, and this will kind of read from your data. So I'm just going to drop this control here. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to link it to a data source. So what I have done is I have already created a data connection to my SQL Server. This is running in Azure SQL. So I'm using the SQL Server connection. And with that, I'm going to say this is my data source, and it's going to ask me which table you want to use. So these are all the tables in that. And I'm going to use APL session demo. So with that, it's gonna connect it and it's gonna populate with the default data. So what I can do now is, I mean, look how simple it is. This is coming from, I can drop other fields on it, and just keep in mind, the first row is your template row. So anything I do in that row, it's gonna impact every other row, as you can see here. On the other hand, if I go in here and I select everything, then that's the entire control. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and change this session, I mean this property, to be the name. So this is the name field from my table. I'm going to change this one to and I'm going to name it the presenter name. So this is the presenter. And the third field that there is, I'm going to change it and I'm going to name it to scheduled date. And with that, I'm going to move it to the side. And as you can see, since I'm making change to the template, remember the first row is the template. Now I'm going to delete this chevron. So this is showing my data. Wonderful. But this data is not sorted in the right order. I need to update this data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sort function. I mean, just look how simple. Sort by column. And then I'm going to use the column name. I'm going to use scheduled date. And I'm going to use the descending. So it shows me the data in a descending order. With that, voila. I mean, all the data is there. Everything is good. So the next to do is, oh, the image. The image is empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm using there is an image field that I'm using. I'm going to use this. So I'm going to just remember this item, is the item for that gallery row. So I'm going to use this item.youtube image URL. That's the URL that I'm using in the YouTube. With that, all good. And if I want to reduce the size of this row, I can reduce that as well. Look, I reduced it. I can move this column, a row a bit up, things like that. So all of this I can do, and kind of all of it very simple. And let's move these two fields up so we can reduce the size of it. Okay, and that's it. So let's with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a other screen now. So now this screen is done. As you can see, I can try to run it. This is a quick test. And as you can see, all the data is showing up here. Okay, any questions so far? Okie dokie. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a new screen. And once again, I'm gonna add a blank screen. I'm gonna call it edit screen. So we still have 12 minutes, so that's good. So we have the main screen going. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into the main screen now. And before I do anything, I'm gonna add, um, I'm going to come here, sorry, on the edit screen, and I'm going to, yeah, sorry, I need to copy this thing from here. Just copy the header and paste it on main screen, on the edit screen. And now I'm gonna paste a form, and it is an edit form. So edit form is, so if you are showing multiple records, you wanna show it with a gallery. If you are showing one record, that's where you use form for editing and things like that. And for the form data source, I'm going to use the same data source. And with that, this is connected. And now I can add whatever fields I want. I'm just going to add all the fields that are there in that table. So I can edit all the fields. Okay, with that all done, it's going to automatically add the fields. And the good thing is, if I go back to this form, I can change, okay, do it in 2-column fashion, do it in 1-column fashion, or do it in 3-column fashion. So all of that is in my control. I can change it. Okay. With that, I'm going to move it a little bit up. And okay, how do I show this data here? So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to set an event. So once again, click on this control and select the on select property. And on that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a variable. In this one, you can, so let's say session ID, and the value of the variable is this. So I'm just going to set it to the key of this record. So by the way, you don't have to declare the variable. Once you assign a variable, that variable will be created. Just keep in mind when your app starts up the first time, this value is set to null. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say navigate to the second screen. So it's going to ask me which screen you want to navigate to. Add a screen, I'm going to set the effect. That's optional, but in any case, I'm going to do it. So with that, now sorry, it's asking me to save it. So let's save this thing. Okay, give me 1 second. It's saved. And so now it is moving to that screen. So go ahead. Any questions?
Is it responsive designed?
So, say that again.
So is it responsive, or do we need to build a separate screen for mobile and desktop devices?
As far as I know, right now you have to build separate screen for mobile and desktop devices. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So it's not responsive. And to be honest, I mean, I'm not sure of a way to do one screen for both devices. I can look into it, but as you can see from the from the start, it asks you, hey, do you want to do a mobile design or do you want to do a tablet design? Okay. So with that, once we are on this screen, what we can do is we can go to the form and we can say what is the particular, we can go to the form, the data source is set to this. And what we can do is we can set to the item. So the item property, we can use the lookup function. And for the lookup, we're going to use the same table that the data is coming from. And we're going to say where row key is equal to our session ID. Oops. By the way, you look at the IntelliSense, it's picking up that variable we typed in, and it knows that that variable is set. With that, we're going to save it. And now we have done it. So let's see how it works. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to click on this item, and look, this item is populated. So it's kind of very simple. Without much fanfare, without much effort, we have two screens going. Okay, and we still have 7 minutes left. So what we're going to do is now we are going to go to the main screen, and we are going to add a icon. Okay, and we're going to move this icon here, and we are going to change the color to white. And on this icon, we are not going to do anything yet. Instead, we are going to go to the edit screen and replicate it. So we are creating the new screen now. Okay, so we are just going to say duplicate screen, and it's going to take a second to duplicate it. Come on. Okay, and we are going to name it new screen. Okay. Once we are on the new screen, we have these this form, and all of this is set up. We are going to add a button, and we're going to call it submit, and add a other button, and with the caption of cancel. Okay, so at this point, these two buttons are set up, and this is a new session screen. The only thing that we do here is for this particular form, we set the mode to new. Okay, so this is now a new form. This is not editing an existing field. Okay, and for this on visible property, we are going to create that new instance of a form. So we go in here and we call it form 1 dash underscore 1. Okay, so that form will be created whenever we come to this screen. Okay, and for the submit, we are gonna say the only thing we are gonna do is we're gonna submit the form. It's kind of similar to reminiscence of HTTP post. So we are basically submitting the form, and we are navigating back to the home screen. We just pick the main screen, and we just pick. As you can see, I don't have to type much. It's most of the stuff is kind of done on my behalf. Once again, I go in here, navigate, and I'm gonna go to main screen if I just cancel it. Okay, so main screen, comma, fade, done. Okay, I'm gonna take these two buttons and I'm gonna paste it to edit screen as well. Okay, and here, if you see here, it is form 1.1. I'm just gonna change it to form 1. Okay, so this is all good. So let's and oh, on the main screen, I'm gonna click this plus button, and I'm gonna ask it to navigate to new screen. Okay, so let's run this thing. So we are on the this screen. If we want to go in here, we can go in here and we say okay, we change the caption, we click on submit. Look, its caption is changed. I mean, with okay, and let's create a new session now. We call it 7th. I'm gonna add everything else as test just to save time. So I'm just gonna copy test, 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 Roki 132, 132. And by the way, I could have used identity and generated that. I didn't do it, since this is a test thingy. So other than that, I mean, pretty um, simple. With that, I'm just gonna, and for the session image, I'm gonna use this standard image that I have. And with that, I'm gonna say submit. Voila. So just imagine, I mean, in less than how many, maybe 10 minutes, we are able to create a fully functional app with CRUD operations. I mean, of course, you can do beautification. I mean, you can add features to it. You can add, you can make it more elegant and, make it more, add more data to it, things like that, add more data fields to it. But the point is, the development is so quick that I mean, within no time, you are able to create functional business application. And what I have to do is I have to just save this application now and then publish it. And then everybody, I mean, I can publish it to teams. I can, any people in my organization, they can access this application, things like that. So it is available for everybody to use. Any questions? I know
Hey,
it's 1 minute
Naveed,
remaining. Yeah, go ahead.
this is Lar. Quick question for you. I know that this was originally intended for the power users, but as there is an aspect for pro developers to integrate this with additional features in Azure. I know there's some simple versioning available here, but as far as I recall, you cannot have multiple developers working on a SEM app, and there's no integration with GitHub or any other kind of advanced version control or source control. Is that something, do you know, on the roadmap for this?
Yes. So they just announced, I haven't looked into it, but they just announced DevOps capabilities for Power Apps. So they just announced DevOps capabilities. I'm sorry, I haven't looked into it, but it's taking to the next level where you
Excellent.
have like controls like built in like Azure DevOps build pipeline where you can build those things. So
That's great news.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's something they just announced it. Okay. Quickly. So I just want to spend 1 minute of time, and I just want to show it to you. I have already a flow there to send emails. So what I can do is I can go into the submit button, click on action, Power Automate, and it will show me the flow. I can click on the flow, and it will take a second, and I can say, yeah, this is the flow you need to run, and I can say this item or whatever, form one. I know we are maybe over time, but form one dot last submit. So this is the last submit dot name. Okay, you can just post it. And by the way, this flow takes the name and it will send somebody an email. So basically, you can do that as well. I know probably in a other session we will spend a little more time on Power Automate. I owe you that, but the goal was to convey how easy it is to develop pretty extensive enterprise application just taking advantage of Power Apps. So I think that's something definitely you folks need to look at. Thank you very much. And I'm here if there are any questions.
Nothing from the chat, Naveed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and hope to see everyone next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.